up, friends? My name is Joss and welcome back to Squibbles Reads. Today we are going to be talking about my 2016 reading and booktube goals. I think my biggest goal for 2016 is to write a review on Goodreads for every single book that I read. Whether it be one paragraph or a big extensive review, it is really important to me to reach more people through my writing. Along that same vein, I really want to advocate for the We Need Diverse Books campaign. I will have a link to both their website and their Twitter in the down bar below. The campaign talks about reading more books and endorsing more authors that identify as a minority group. So whether that be LGBTQ, a racial minority group, or someone of a different SES, it's just not someone who is of the dominant discourse, who we see so often in books. And I think that there is a really slanted misrepresentation of minority groups in books. Personally, I identify as a minority group. I identify as Asian, and I'm also a female. Having all these books written for guys and written for people who aren't Asian, I don't see a lot of myself in literature, and it really scares me because thinking of my kids growing up, I don't want them to think that they're an outcast or that they just don't belong in books or they don't belong in movies. And more importantly, there are hardly any protagonists that are of a minority group, especially in YA literature. I just think it is so important that we represent everyone in books, not just people of the dominant discourse. In the upcoming year, I definitely want to incorporate more of my own knowledge and my own passion and my field into what I'm reading. I'm getting my master's in psych, and I want to start incorporating things that I know about the field into what I'm reading, particularly about mental health problems. I think that mental health, counseling, therapy, people who are diagnosed with a mental illness are really misrepresented in books as well. A lot of books can be really polarizing, or they frame counseling and therapy in this light that basically says, we're here to push pills on you, all we want is to push our own agenda on you. Counseling and therapy is not about that. Counseling and therapy is creating an environment such that the individual can grow on their own, no matter what means that could be. And that could be a different means for everyone. And a lot of books that I read, the therapist actually becomes the villain, and it becomes a person who is totally unhelpful and a person who is actually, in some cases, not actually being very ethical to the profession of therapy. So I really want to read critically and be really honest regarding mental health in books. Phew! That was really heavy. Let's do some lighter goals now. The total number of books that I want to read in 2016 is 75. After I started BookTube in around October, I read like a madman. I read like crazy. This upcoming year, I'm going to be starting my internship in September or August in the fall semester. I will also be going to school full-time. I don't even know how I'm going to read my textbooks. So I think the good majority of like my hefty, very voluminous, intense reading will be done in the first half of the year, and then the second half, I don't know what's gonna happen. Maybe I'll have more time to read and maybe I won't. So for now, I'm gonna set my goal at 75, which I think is appropriate. My next goal is my favorite one on this whole list. I want to reread the whole Pretty Little Liars series, whatever is out now. And I also want to finish watching Pretty Little Liars because Mr. Fitz. And I also really like the premise of the book series and of the TV show. I think the TV show is really well executed, and I don't think there's really anything that's like it out there right now. My next goal is to read at least one adult sci-fi book. And I know that seems like so stupid, like come on, you can read one adult sci-fi books. But for me, I'm either 0 or 110. I am never somewhere in the middle. I'm never kind of meh about anything. I will either really love it or really hate it. And sci-fi, I have had such a hard time with. The world building in sci-fi for me is even harder than the world building in adult fantasy. But I just read Illuminae, and Illuminae, while it's not adult sci-fi, it is a YA sci-fi, and it was set in space, and there was a lot of technology used. It was set also in the future, which I think is basically the premise of the majority of sci-fi out there, and I really enjoyed it. There are so many books out there in the sci-fi genre that I think are really underappreciated, and I don't want to add to that stigma, so I'm gonna try one, and if I like it, I will keep going. If anyone has any recommendations for a good starter adult sci-fi, the adult sci-fi booktube starter pack, please leave me a recommendation down below. I would really love to hear any suggestions that you guys have. And my last goal is to read at least one classic. I feel like I've read definitely more classics than sci-fi, considering like I took English English AP in high school. I took a few English courses in my undergrad as well, so they did have us read a lot of classics, but the classic that I'm most interested in reading is Lolita by Vladimir Nabokov. My boyfriend and I actually want to read this together, and he suggested it to me a couple months ago. It definitely seems right up my alley. It's another one of those like heavy, controversial topics, which I love, so I will definitely be reading that in 2016. So that is all my goals. Hopefully I will reach them all. If you guys have any recommendations for sci-fi, again, please leave them down below. I need a lot of help with this. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!